Hello, wonderful people of the internet. I am back after quite a long absence. I'm really sorry that I haven't uploaded in such a long time. Well, for one thing, you know that I don't like doing filler videos for you all. I'd rather you didn't waste your time watching things that I hadn't put a lot of thought into, and instead saved your time for when I had actually valuable things to say. And also, I've gone back to school. It's been very busy. I've not been able to cut out time to do videos that were essentially just filler videos for while I finished this book. This book is Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, and this book nearly finished me off. It's not particularly big, but it's the biggest book I've read in quite a while, and hence the long amount of time it's taken me to finish it. But now it is done, and I'm ready to talk about this with you. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so I'm sure that Brandon Sanderson needs no introduction to the majority of my audience, but for those who don't know, he's pretty famous right now. In fact, I'm willing to gamble that he's probably one of the most successful and, well, if not the most successful and famous fantasy author in the field right now. And he is most famous for his Stormlight Archive and Cosmere. Stormlight Archive is its own series. I've got the first book there. It's called The Way of Kings, and his Cosmere is a whole universe in which most of his books are set. And he's very famous for all of that jazz. He did a Kickstarter recently, which I believe has broken quite a few records and holds at least a record for most money raised on a fundraiser for books. I'm not sure whether just in general, probably just for books, because probably raised quite a lot of money in a lot of different places. But I'm rambling. Basically, I've never read a book by Brandon Sanderson before, and I've been wanting to get into him, and much like Terry Pratchett, instead of going through all the kerfuffle of seeing different people's opinions of, oh, you shouldn't start at the beginning, you should really start with Mistborn, or you should start with The Way of Kings. I thought, I'll start with the first book he published and I'll just ride it through in chronological order. So, we've got Elantris here, and going into this, I heard a lot of people say, you know, this is probably the worst of Brandon Sanderson's books. Now, I know this man is good. I know that he does a lot of good stuff in his books. I know that his books are top tier. But if this is his worst book, then he is far better than I ever could have estimated, because this book was incredible. Spoilers, this was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it, and even though it took me a long time to get through, that is not a sign that I didn't like it. I was just busy, and at times the plot was not particularly fast, so I read less, or I had a bit less motivation to pick it up. But this was such a good book, and to call this the worst of someone's bibliography, I think is the right word, is really saying something. So let's get into what I thought about Elantris. Now, full spoiler warning for this book. If you haven't read it, if you want to read it, click off now and come back later if you want to. So, what did I like about Elantris? Actually, we should probably start with a plot synopsis before I start talking about what I liked. So this book is set in a world where there used to be the city, it's still there, but there was a city called Elantris, and it was for the people who were blessed with really powerful magical abilities. They were basically immortal, they were worshipped as gods. And then 10 years prior to the events of the story, suddenly they all fell in a way. Their skin went grey and blotchy, and they lost power of their magic, and they became almost dead in a way. And that meant that most of the cities around it crumbled because they no longer had Elantris to support their commerce. And one country here had 4 around it, Elantris did. One city called K or Kai. I was pronouncing it as Kai in my head, but the more I think about it, it's probably pronounced K. But this place survived because this man called Iadon, who was a merchant, basically brought everyone together and put in place this system that eventually led to the country is called Arelon, led to the country failing. His rule was not a very good one for the people. Basically, people became slaves if they didn't have enough money to have a noble title. It wasn't looking very good in Arelon. Meanwhile, there's a... I haven't done this in a while, I'm rusty. Meanwhile, to the north, across the ocean, there's a country called Teod. That's not even, or Teod, I don't know how to pronounce these things, it's not like I've seen a film or anything, but there's a country called Teod. We're gonna go with Teod. They're doing stuff. Great description of that. And then across the sea to the east, we have got the Fjordan Empire, which is this big religious empire that is bad news. They're violent and they're not very nice, and they are a massive threat to Arelon in its weakened state under the rule of this corrupt king, and also now that they haven't got Elantris there. Now to up the setting, the book is about 3 people. There are 3 Viewpoint characters in this book. There is Prince Raoden, who is the Prince of Arelon, who becomes cursed. He goes through the Sheod, which is the process that one goes through to become an Elantrian. It's not by choice, it happens randomly. He becomes an Elantrian overnight, wakes up, and gets put in Elantris. If you turn into an Elantrian now, you get put into Elantris. And just left there to rot, really. He goes in there, he discovers everyone miserable. The Elantrians work in a weird way. They're basically dead, which means that if they sustain an injury, they cannot heal, and so they keep the pain with them, and it accumulates in it, and it can overwhelm people sometimes. And they also don't need to eat, but they do starve. So he's put in there, everyone's miserable. He's like, that's not okay, so he decides he's going to bring Elantris together into a united people who can forget their pain by having a purpose. Meanwhile, Princess Serene, who comes from Teod, which is the place where people are just doing stuff, she's been married to Raoden for a political alliance to keep Fjorden out, so she's come across the ocean, and then she's been told that he's dead, which isn't true, but she's been told he's dead, but she's still bound to the royal family, so she's there and she decides that she's going to sort the politics in this country out by, getting to know the nobles, sorting out the corrupt, government and the class system that's there. And another main goal of hers is to thwart the main antagonist of the book, who is Gjorn Hrafn. Hrafn is a high-ranking priest, if you will, from the Fjordell Empire, and he's come over to convert Arelon in 3 months, otherwise the Holy Leader's armies will sweep across the land, killing everyone and forcefully converting them to his faith. So he's there to convert people peacefully, and Serene's like, no, we don't want your religion here, and so she's got a big conflict with him. That took about 3 minutes to set up. If you've already read the book, I'm sorry, because you knew all that already. But we've set the scene, so let's actually talk about what I liked about this book. Let me grab the notes. 1 minute. Okay, so we'll talk about the characters first. I really liked all the Viewpoint characters in this book. I thought that all of them had really interesting things going on. There was Raoden with exploring Elantris and the magic there, which is called the Aeon Door. I really liked him discovering that. I liked him setting up new Elantris in Elantris and uniting all the gang leaders there. I also liked his friend Galadon a lot. Galadon is this moody, sarcastic guy. What else is he? He's a guy who is also Raoden's best friend, and they work together. I really like them. I'm sorry if this review is crap. I'm rusty and I'm not, so it's not going to be as good as previous ones probably. But we'll get back into gear as I release reviews more regularly again. There was Serene with all the political intrigue and her getting to know different nobles. I really liked all the people she was with. I really liked Kin, I liked Lukor, I liked Shuden, I liked Royale. Royale was a legend. We love Royale. Her plotline was amazing. I also liked what she was doing with the noble women. The noble women there were very submissive. They were looked down upon by the king, at least, who thought that women were stupid because he was a horrible man. And Serene basically said, well, don't let yourself be treated like this. I'm going to teach you how to fence. We're going to get some autonomy. It was great. You'll love to see it. But my favourite Viewpoint character was definitely Gjorn Hrafn. Now, that is partially because he reminds me a lot of the main character in the book I plan on writing in the future, but also because his plotline felt the most interesting, just to me. It appealed to me the most, because the fact that he doesn't want to have riots, he doesn't want to have a violent overthrow of the government and a forceful conversion to his faith, which is called Derefi. It's not called Derefi, but the Derefi faith. Is it Derefi? Deref. It's called Deref. But Derefi faith. It's not important. It's not important, Frank. And stay focused. But I really like him balancing, getting people to hate Elantrians and have this. He wants to scapegoat the Elantrians, but he doesn't want riots against them. But he's having to counter this fella called Dilaf. I believe he was called Dilaf. Yeah, Dilaf, who is really zealous and he hates Elantrians and he wants to incite violent mobs. And so Hrafn not only has to do his own thing, but also counter Dilaf and also have to worry about the fact that if he doesn't get this done in 3 months, then everyone's going to die. I just really liked all the moving pieces in his story, and I really liked seeing how it progressed. And I liked his religious crisis as well. I really liked him starting to realise that his faith was not based on his passion for the religion, but because he saw it as logical. And so he was like, well, what's driving me here? And him slowly rediscovering his faith and what it meant to him. All really interesting stuff. So we love that. Sorry, the sun carries on getting in my face. The setting, I'll touch on the setting. The setting was great. Brandon Sanderson is known for his world building, and if this is his worst book, World Building Rise, which is what I've heard, then oh boy, I mean, I know the Stormlight Archive is going to be immense, so I can't wait for that, but I really like this on its smaller scale. I really liked the magic. The magic was awesome. The idea of the Aeons, where you draw them and they release the magic in a focused beam. We like that. We like that a lot. I just really liked it. I liked the mystery surrounding the magic with the reason it was not working was because of the chasm which opened up, and that's what caused the Rayod, which caused all the Elantrians to fall. That stuff was all great. I liked seeing it develop. I also really liked the plot. The plot, as I've touched on Harfins, but I also like the other two Viewpoint characters' plots. But I also felt quite clever, because I did foresee quite a lot of the stuff happening in this. And when I say I foresaw quite a lot of the stuff happening, I foresaw one thing. I guessed one singular thing, and that was that Keen was Drayok Crushthroat. I don't know how I figured it out, but I was like, he is Drayok Crushthroat. And he was Drayok Crushthroat, and I was like, hehehe. That was all great. And I know that Brandon Sanderson is notorious for having slow build-up, and then the last 100 pages is just, ah! And that was very much the case. I did almost forget in this book that people could die, because in the middle section not much happened, and some people did die, but it wasn't any major character deaths. So the fact that Royale died, which is the event that triggered all the cascade of events towards the end, really shook me. I was really sad. It was devastating. I loved Royale. But I really enjoyed that structure. The last 100 pages I did read in about one or two sittings. It was great. The plot twist with Dilaf being from one of the Monster Monks, which is definitely the canon name for them, was cool. I didn't guess that one. So that was all really good. I really enjoyed seeing it. But I could, as you can see, I could ramble on about everything I liked for quite a while. So we'll quickly go on to the cons, of which I don't have many, which is usually the case because I don't like being negative. So there we are, Andrew Garfield's on his negative side. It's so dusty in here, good God. This book did have a few unanswered questions, and I'm unsure whether Brandon has said that at any point he's going to write a sequel to Elantris. I believe in Arcanum Unbounded there is a sequel of sorts, God the Sun. So hopefully, basically the unanswered questions were that across the world people could channel the door differently, like the monster monks had their own thing. Shuden towards the end of the story did some martial arts and started glowing and like killed someone with a single blow, which is not something a normal person could do. So there was all of that, and I would love to see that explored. It didn't detract from my enjoyment in any way, and because I didn't feel like something that I needed the answers to. I was fine with it being a mystery, but I would like to see that explored if there is a sequel. And at the back there was a bit called Ars Arcanum, which was where he outlined all the Aeons. But there was also this little section where it said, hey, I wonder if the people know that they're channeling their dead gods to do their magic. And I was like, hold up. Are we going to talk about that? There was something about a crystal as well. I assume that's a Cosmere thing that will make sense later on. And that's why I'm not saying this is really a bad thing about the story. It's more just a thing that I'm saying if it's not expanded upon, I'll be disappointed, but I'm fine with it as it is. But yeah, that was those were all things that I was like, ooh, we've got some potential to see new things here. I hope it's explored. Then there was one reveal at the end that I just didn't like, that I didn't buy into. There was a lot of reveals towards the end, but the one that I didn't like was Adien's. Adien was one of Keen's children, and he sat there a lot, he'd repeat numbers, he was all creepy spooky, and I forgot he existed until the final act, and then it was revealed he was an Elantrian. He was cured when Raoden did the thing with the stick, and recovered Elantris' magic, and just, I don't know, he was just kind of like, I was an Elantrian, and now I'm healed, and I can tell you the exact footsteps to Teod. It wasn't really explained how, he didn't even know how he knew it. He just had this thing for numbers while he was an Elantrian, and I was like, like, I understand, it just didn't feel that well fleshed out to me, mainly because I forgot he existed, but that was the one thing towards the end of the book where I was like, okay. We'll go with it, because it needed to exist for the plot to happen. But those are the only criticisms I have. In the book, criticisms, and as I said, if this is Brandon Sanderson's worst book, and I only have 2 criticisms, one of which isn't even a criticism, then I'm excited. Now, I'm not going to read Brandon Sanderson books for a while in the future, just because I've got 3 books on my TBR, or 4 books really on my TBR, 5. I've got a lot of books on my TBR, and 3 of them are ones that aren't even in the fantasy genre, so I'm probably going to want to come back to like a Terry Pratchett book once I'm done with them. Those 3 books, by the way, are Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which is my Halloween read, because like Frankenstein, I read it, I hated it, and I'm prepared to be wrong again, and I can make a video on it. and we can talk about that. The other one is The Secret History, which is, I've been told, is like Fight Club for Ponzi literary majors, or I think that was how it was worded, so that's exciting. One of my friends is raving about it, and it's not a fantasy book at all, it's just a regular book, so we'll see how I can jump that genre, and whether I crave elves, and whether my craving for elves affects my enjoyment of the story, but I'm excited to read that. And there's another one which is called All That's Left in the World, which is my girlfriend's favourite book. It's a dystopian romance, I believe, which is something I've not read that genre at all. Well, I guess you could count Hunger Games, so we're excited to read that as well. So those are the 3 books that you can expect me to review next. Then I'll probably do Pyramids, and then we'll see whether I do Mistborn or not. Because this book was a long one, and I do want to break from long books, because this took me ages, and I do want to talk to you as much as possible. But I digress. So, what do I rate Elantris? I've already told you. 5 stars. I love this. It was really enjoyable. I can't wait to read Stormlight Archive in particular. Like, I'm ready to like Mistborn, but I know that Stormlight is the massively, different world, completely intricate magic, expansive, over 1,000 page long book deal, and that's going to be exciting. I also really want to read his secret novels because I'm hearing lots of good stuff about them, but in short, I'm just really excited to see where Sanderson goes, because I know that this guy is so good at what he's doing, and I want to see how good he can get. So we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry that I've been gone for so long, and I will see you next week for sure, because Jekyll and Hyde is a very small book. It's a very, very small book. I'll probably finish it by Wednesday. Actually, I'll try and get you a review on Wednesday, because I'm going on holiday on Sunday, and that will make it difficult to do a video. And I don't really want to do one like Arcane, because that video was not very good, and you could hardly hear me because of the wind. So I'll try and get the Jekyll and Hyde review to you on Wednesday, and then I can't really say how long The Secret History will take me, because that's as long as this, and it's not a fantasy book, so it may affect my will to read it. I'll do my best. I will try and do some filler videos. Maybe I'll review TV shows. I've been watching Sex Education recently, and that's pretty good. It's been ruining my life for the last month, and I could talk about that if you're interested. But that's where we're going to be. I rambled a bit there as well. So, I'll see you all, hopefully on Wednesday, where I'll talk about Jekyll and Hyde. Until then, have a good one, and thanks for watching. Bye.